Hello and welcome to the Artist Focus organised with Out of Sight. I'm here today with Ieke Trinks and Anyuta Wiazemsky Snauwaert. And this broadcast, my name is Carron Little and I'm the organiser of Out of Sight. And this broadcast is coming to you from the ancestral homelands of the Council of Three Fires, the Adwa, the Ojibwe, and the Potawatomi peoples. Out of Sight, as an organization, is specifically interested in the questions around sight and thinking about territories. It is March the 12th, 2022, and the Russians invaded the Ukraine 10 days ago on February 24th. And I want to, Anyuta and Ieke, what are your perspectives on this specific moment and in relation to site and territory? How are you thinking about this?
Should I begin or would you like to begin, Ieke?
No, if you want, Anyuta, yes, you can start.
I try to be short, and first of all, thanks for putting this into attention in this little hour that we have. I myself am Russian, and 9 years ago I left that country and I moved to Belgium exactly because I wanted to leave the cynicism that's being propagated on every corner, in every city, in every street. I think some weird relation to the land is, in a way, the core of the issue. But the people's relationship to this land is even more important, I guess. Russian army invades the Ukraine, and it's not a war that started 17 days ago. It's a war that had started 8 years ago. And what happened before is that my country annexed a huge piece of another country because the political claim is that it used to be Russia. And this whole situation is just very anxious. What can you do as a small human? It's such a mass storm of fake news and many emotions and people and views that interact with each other. So I don't have a clear message, I'm afraid.
But I do want to say, actually, and you're right to correct me, I mean, this war didn't start 10 days ago, and perhaps not even 8 years ago, because there's a whole history of this relationship between Russia and the Ukraine that really kind of has a huge, long history dating back 100 years or more. With the events of Stalin in the I think it was in the 1940s, where he starved the Ukrainian people of food. So there's a long, and as we, the land holds the history, and that's one of the things that we've, had the pleasure of discussing. So, Ieke, what are your thoughts about this very, emotive time?
Yeah, different thoughts. Goes to different directions. I just also have to think about that there are actions taken by censorship or boycotting, like art or other like books or things like which are from Russian makers. And I think is also such a pity, because it's not a war about that. And I think that's also very important to not forget that there is, to really try to understand that what is involved, and that it's not about a war about art, or it's really something else, and it's not about the people. It's not the Russian people who are necessarily doing that or wanting that, I think. And so that's something that I think about. And the other thing is also, of course, that I also happen to now being part of a program about undocumented in the Netherlands. And some people are here like more than 40 years. They're old. They still don't have papers. And so they are forgotten. And I'm very happy. It's very good that people get help. But I hope also that this help that the Ukrainian people get, that also will be more thought given to all the other people that also need help. And yeah, that's another thought I have.
Yes, and so, this idea of territory and how it relates to our bodies and to the lands that we live on, and how these, are, part of a process of care that we need to, the land needs care to flourish, to growth, to provide food, to nourish us, and we also need care for our bodies. And so the interconnection between bodies and land is so vital. But so that brings me to the conversation that we are here to have today with Ieke Trinks, who is an artist I have worked with since 2013. When she proposed the meetings project for Out of Sight. And I remember when you submitted the proposal, you said, "Oh, just choose one or two meetings." And I said, no, we want to do them all. And so we created 7 unexpected encounters in Chicago in 2013. And that really was a generative conversation between us in terms of how we think about documentation and performance. And so I'm going to hand it over to Anyuta. We are here with Anyuta Wiazemsky Snauwaert, who is a curator and a multimedia artist working in photography. And I'm going to pass it over to you. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks so much. Yes, I placed myself in front of my studio so that everybody can see that I'm also a photographer. I know Ieke a little shorter than Carron. I think I firstly saw your work in the February of 2019. And it was an exhibition in Rotterdam, I think in Mali, and it was something about the price, or I don't know the context anymore, but when I saw the videos and your approach to the ordinary objects and put the lens, the artistic lens, on something that other people would just say, oh, it's trash, and I just look over it. I didn't look over it. I really enjoy this kind of practices. And when 2 years ago I was one of the curators of Kunstenswalm, I thought of you as an artist. But now I want to give a little bit of context of what Kunstenswalm is and who were the curators. Kunstenswalm is a biennial, I don't think I pronounce it right, but it's an exhibition in open air in the region of Zalm here in Belgium. And every 2 years, it has a different route. The first time happened in 1997, so it's more than 20 years that it exists, although they did skip an edition because of the death of the person who organized it in the first instance. Since the last 2 editions, the organization changed the approach. In the beginning, it was within the organization themselves who curated the artists. But then 2 editions ago, they asked Brussels organization Nadine to be an external curator. And in that way, they had local artists from Zalm and artists from Brussels collaborating on that open air project. And for the next edition, they asked an organization called Kroksapox. It's an artist-run off space in Ghent, where I have been working for 4 years, to be a next curator. And me and my ex-colleague Samir El-Khadraoui invited another artist, Remy Verstraeten, to be the 3rd curator. So Samir, Remy, and I, as 3 curators, invited different artists from Ghent, from Zalm region. Ieke was the international artist from the Netherlands then. And we really wanted to involve the space, to create some kind of facilitate creation of relationship between the artists and the location and the people there. So we had, I think, about a year of preparations in the middle of the Corona crisis. We organized walks in along the route, and I think we couldn't organize a few of them because of the lockdown, but then it was possible again. And yes, and Ieke proposed a Museum of Broken Things. And I think this is something she wants to invite us to today, right?
Yes, thank you, Anyuta. Also, just I want to go a little bit back because also thank you, Carron, for the introduction and for having this artist focus, and that I can present the Museum voor Kapotte Spullen, the Museum for Broken Things. One thing, I also really like to credit people, and because the meeting was not only my project, it was in collaboration with Bernard Roddy. And also when you asked me about, or you said, Anyuta, about you first time when you encountered my work, that was in Ghent, not in Melly, but it's next to Ghent. And it was the MK Award. So I was one of the nominees back then. So just to... Yes, so definitely I want to invite you all where you are to come and have a look in the museum, Museum voor Kapotte Spullen. For that, I will share my screen so I can show you something. Let me see. Always exciting to start sharing. And here we are. Museum voor Kapotte Spullen, Museum for Broken Things. It happened that it was the first time actually that the museum opened. The idea was already before the route for Kunst en Zwallen. And I actually also had collected a couple of objects, but it was in a different context and in a different place, more urban place. And Kunst en Zwallen is not particularly urban, which is for me a really different way of working. What did I do? So yes, I also had difficulties coming to Belgium, to the east of Flanders. That's the area, which is maybe a few hours to go there with public transportation or by car. It's not easy with public transportation. It takes a long time to get there. And I was really not sure what I wanted to do in this art route. And I found it really hard to connect because I could not always come to Belgium. Also because we had the lockdown and I was not allowed to leave the country. So it was very different than what we initially had in mind, because I think we would the idea was already for a year long to meet once a month and to really build up a relationship. But nonetheless, in the summertime, I finally could put more effort in it and go to the area. And I went to Munkswalm. You see a picture here. I just happened to be a flea market. That was my first step into what to do, how to figure out or how to get objects, how to get in contact with people. And I was not really lucky because I came there and then there was a huge rainfall. So everybody was picking up their stuff and cleaning. It was also that summer, this last summer, that there was a huge amount of rain, a lot of rain. So, but I did get some phone numbers and I did also get a few objects. So it was not actually so bad. And next to that, I also put an ad in the local newspaper. And there has been one person who reached out to me with a broken object. Then on the route itself, to give you some idea how this area looks like, there were really cute places, houses, little villages with the church. Here I found an object. I rang people's doorbells. That was my way of doing it, to connect. And I managed to speak to people. I usually went to the door, ring the doorbell, somebody opens, and then I introduced myself shortly. And I was saying that I was looking for broken objects for my machine for broken things. Here you see a farm, and it was a bit dangerous to go there inside because there was a dog, so you had to watch out. But I managed to talk with the man living there, the farmer, and he also donated a broken object. And here, this is also part of the route, so you can see it's a kind of an agriculture area, large landscapes. And this is closer to the barn where the museum opened for the first time. And here, this is the barn, and this is the barn, the farm of the family Keizer. And Alain was, how do you say it? He was open to share his space for the art route.
Maybe I can...
Yeah. You want to say something? Yeah?
Yes, because Alain reached out firstly to us as curators, because either in the newspaper or via he heard that Kunst en Zwalm will happen that year in the neighborhood where he lives. So he just reached out as a person who lives in the neighborhood, and he said, if I can do anything, if you would like to use my space, I have this barn here, you can come and use it. And this is one of the things that's so great about Kunst en Zwalm, that there is really a connection with the people who live there, and they know the event, and they just reach out and say, you can just come and use our help. And yes, and if Alain is watching us, thank you so much.
Yes, yeah, definitely, thank you. It was, well, he did not know back then that the museum would go into his barn. So it was first something else, and gradually the museum expanded and took over the whole barn. So, but I think that was kind of a surprise for him. But it was an interesting experience to also work in the barn, and it's not like an exhibition space, so it doesn't work with the same rules. So you have to kind of figure out how to collaborate a bit with the owner as well. So the art route was open 3 weekends in a row, and in this barn you could find the museum. In there were 32 broken objects. They were donated and lent by local residents. And now I want to invite you to come inside. So here we are. So I decided to display the objects, making my own huge, how to call it, sculpture of cardboard boxes. They are used cardboard boxes, and I could play around with it to place the objects on top of it, inside of it, or hang them on it. And the nice thing with old cardboard boxes is that they have all their like traces of what they have been doing before. They have like logos, they have their postal addresses, and so they're original stickers. But I also like thought of how does it work in a museum, and how do you display objects? And also with objects you always have a text plate, a card with information, and so each object was also accompanied with information and giving the name of the object and who the owner was, where it was from, and also a short story that I had I had put together because I did an interview with each person who donated an object. So it gives some insight information on how the object was used, where the object was from, and why it was broken. It was all in Dutch. There was an English translation. The thing was interesting for me was to work in East Flanders, is that the Flemish language is a bit different than the Dutch language, and it's very nice. So I tried to really use the word choices of what people use there. But these subtleties are lost in the English language, but it's just something that I wanted to mention. So let's continue. This we saw already, just to have a look how the exhibition looked like. These two persons, this couple, I also got an object from them. So, and they came to the museum to visit it. Well, let's move a little bit around it so you can see the objects are placed everywhere around. And some cardboard boxes once were used for chairs, and they happen to be beautiful shapes to use as a display box. And it also needs to become adventurous. A museum needs to be adventurous, you know, it needs to be exciting, wanting to have people to come in and enjoy and look in different corners and around the corner. So I tried to make it quite diverse, and where you could look, you have to look higher, lower, so it makes you more active as well as a visitor. And the great thing of cardboard boxes, you can cut things out and you can put the object into it, so it will be stable. All right, but now the little surprise.
The bingo.
The bingo. Yes, really great idea when Anyuta and me were talking about what to do, how to present the museum in this artist focus. And Anyuta had a great idea that maybe we can make it a bit more interactive by have you who are now watching can choose which object we are going to look at and that I can tell about a little bit. So as you can see, at the top level on left, you see article 006, Postuurke of Diana. So that one you can choose, or you can choose something else like article 025, Spotkachel of Kathleen. So it would be really great if you can put your choice in the chat box, right? And then I think, Anyuta, you will be maybe helping me out what people write in the chat box, because I'm not really seeing that right now.
Yes, so far we have 2 comments, and I'm laughing because it was also my choice when we just did a tryout a few minutes ago.
Oh, really? Oh, it's the T-shirt.
Yes.
Oh, great. Okay, good. So let's have a look what the T-shirt is about. The T-shirt of Bea, article 008. Right. So we go to the object here, T-shirt of Bea from Munkswalm, and its function was to wear during work. And according to Bea, the T-shirt is broken because there are little holes in it, as you can see here. These came in there about a year ago. She told me, and the holes came in the T-shirt, particularly on that area, because she was wearing the T-shirt inside of her jeans with a belt. Yeah, since then, she has still worn a T-shirt for a while, but no longer for work. So she had it very specifically for work. And the job that Bea is doing is that she's ironing in an ironing shop, so where people bring their clothes. And yeah, it's been about 3 years since Bea bought the T-shirt. And she was actually one of the first people that I met, and it was on the flea market, just when it started to rain. So if there are any questions also about this, or we continue to the next object, or...
Well, I'm thinking we only have 15 minutes, so maybe it's more interesting that we try to cover as many objects as we can now. So
right.
in the chat function.
Then I go back to the,
And then within a quarter of an hour, we can switch to the questions. Good. So the next object that has been asked is Coffee Set of Alain, number 10.
Yes. By the way, just to have a little, there are more objects, but because we decided to make a selection for you, because otherwise there would have been 3 times as much as what you see here. And because there's just too limited time to show them all. But let's go to Coffee Set of Alain. And Alain was the host also. He is the owner of the barn. Article 010. Yes, the coffee set. It means coffee maker. And Alain, he is that's in the place Horebeke. So there is where the coffee maker is from. And Ellen told me the coffee set no longer functions because it doesn't turn on when he tries to turn it on. So that's why it's broken. The thing was bought in a store in, he thought, 2006 or 2007. So it's not that old. And it stopped working just last year. And also according to Alain, it's an outmoded machine. But what he did, Alain, he has a job. He worked for NATO. And so he was traveling a lot to different countries. And he always wanted to drink coffee and make sure that he would have coffee. So what he did, he brought this coffee set to these countries. So he was also for a period of time in Afghanistan, and he brought this coffee set with him. Maybe for some people know this type of coffee maker. I don't know if this typical, I know it's Senseo. That's how it's called. That's the brand. It's not my favorite coffee, but I don't know if in the US if people are familiar with Senseo, the coffee maker, but it needs special coffee pads, and you cannot buy that everywhere. So occasionally, Alain had to order them from Europe all the way to Afghanistan to be able to still drink coffee. So that was the the coffee set. Let's go back to the bingo. Are there any more? Yeah, were there any more interest?
We had got 4 requests so far, but 2 people asked the same thing. And now we have one more. It's Grote Koffiekop of Annie, number 017.
Yeah, right. Annie, special person. Yeah. Annie, I met Annie many times actually. Korsele, that was a village. Interesting also because Belgium it's Catholic, but particularly that Korsele is Protestants, and there's quite a lot of family members lived there with the last name Blommaert, and Annie lived on the corner next to the church, and she was sitting outside, and I've been talking with her many times. She liked to talk. And she was first a bit confused what I wanted from her, because it was difficult to understand it as art. But she was open to it. And I will show you the video of the object. So article number 017 is grote koffiekop, large coffee cup. And the function was drinking coffee. Look, I did something like, I didn't realize the last time when a friend, because actually the friend Li Chun Cheng filmed this all actually. So I want to thank her also by this. But I suddenly saw that the cup was not on its place anymore, because I'm very precise on how I display things. Even though it looks messy, I'm still very precise. And as you see in the picture, it is a bit on the edge of the box. But when it was filmed, it wasn't there anymore. So, or it fell down, or somebody thought it was falling and decided to replace it or something. But there's a huge amount of glue also on the side. So yeah, that's an extra story. But yeah, about the coffee cup. It is bought by Annie herself, and at Colruyt. I don't know this type of shops. We don't have them in the Netherlands as far as I know. It's a kind of an Albert Heijn, she said, or maybe Hema. But the people in the US might not know what shop that is. It's like household stuff, and I think also food. And she bought it like 3 years ago, and but must have been like a year now that the cup broke. And for Annie, because it's the question, is this really broken or not? But for Annie, it is broken because the handle is off. And but she also said, yeah, it's not really broken because it's still usable, and you still can drink from it. So I also thought, yeah, is it really broken or not? But she said it's not convenient because there are sharp edges left behind, and the handle, where the handle was attached, so you could see that as well. And yeah, after the accident, Annie washed the cup and placed it just back in the cupboard, so without the handle. And I asked her also, how did it broke? And she didn't remember how it fell, but she thought that it had fallen. And since then, she didn't use it for coffee anymore. So the function changed, and she did use it. She told me she used it for leftovers to put in it, and then put it in the fridge, like food in the cup, and then in the fridge, and then she puts a plate on top of it. And sometimes she also beats eggs in it. So that's about the coffee cup, the grote koffiekop. Right, shall we go and see if we can go for another object?
Yes, we have one more request, and I would like to encourage the people who watch. I think after this we can do maybe one more object, and after that we would like to answer your questions. I hope you have some questions so far, so try to formulate them and just put in the comment section. The next request is article 019, Potje of Sonja.
Oh, okay, Potje of Sonja. Let me see.
And we've got a compliment so far. This project looks very good on documentation.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me see. Potje of Sonja, also from Corcele. So she lives around the corner, more or less, a little bit further away from the church, from Annie. I don't know if they probably know each other. I'm not sure. Yes. Oh, they were also really friendly when I rang their doorbell. I remember it was a couple, and they were really excited about it, actually. Yeah. But it was always hard for people to think about it, actually, like what is broken. It's just suddenly they don't think much about it. And actually, I was also not sure that this project would be a good project in Kunst, in Zwalm, in this area, because I had it somewhere else in mind, but life changed because of the pandemic. And sometimes you have to go with the flow. And yes, then I did this project in Zwalm, and it makes also sense because everything is so neat and clean in a way. And every time I rang a doorbell, people were very friendly and they were open to it. And I would almost think in an urban environment, they would probably be annoyed, but that's my, maybe it's not the case, but here they were open to it, friendly, and but they often said they don't have anything broken because they always bring it, like when something is broken, they throw it away immediately. That's what they think. So they usually don't have anything. But let's go and look at potje. And potje means jar. And here you can see it. It's of Sonja. And Sonja's mother, oh wait, first the function. Yes, the function was for potato starch. And Sonja's mother once got the potje from her employee, and Sonja got it then from her mother 40 years ago. So you can see it's a very old thing, and it's made of plastic. So it also says it's a typical period of time when a lot of plastic came into the kitchen, I think. And last year she dropped the jar. So you can imagine that something is from your mother and you have it, and then at a second in the moment, and suddenly you do something and it falls, and the lid is broken and the bottom is loose as well, she told me. So since then, the jar has not been used and has been left in the kitchen cupboard, with Sonja hoping that she could still do something with it after all. Yeah. So I asked her, what happened? Why did it fall? I asked her, and she did not really know why it fell out of her hands, but it fell out of her hands one day. And she thought maybe that she was too hasty or something, too hurry, or so that's something that she thought that it was maybe that. But also I was curious if it was used for anything else, and but she said no, nothing else but potato starch has been stored in that jar. And for some people who don't know, potato starch is used for making and thickening sauces. So you see that little, the aardappelzetmeel text on it. It's like some people do that with their kitchen jars. They cut out, like from the packaging. Yeah, you recognize that too, Anyuta. And then with tape, they tape it on the jar. Yeah, I love that so much. Okay, yeah, and it's yellow as the it's beautiful anyway. So. Right, we go back to the. Where are we going, Anyuta?
Let's maybe try to do one last object because we have been asked already. Article 23, collection of Johann.
Oh, but that's a really long story. Right, how to make that short? Yes, it is an interesting story too. Let's just go there. It's actually a collection of broken things. Let me see. I hope that it's a bit. The video is a little bit like, because you go there, you see a handdoek, washandje, and sportschoenen, and it's all the Dutch words I use now. Socks, sokken, sportkousen, actually he calls it, and there's also a trophy of Nikkei. It's hanging there. Yeah, I'm just pointing to my screen. It doesn't make any sense for you. Yes, so
But it's brilliant. It's a collection within a collection.
It's a collection within a collection. Yeah, by one person. In the beginning, I thought like, oh, why? Yes, but can you not just? He came with the whole bag of stuff, and first like, okay, I will select something. But then I realized by listening to all the stories that they were all related with one another, because this man, Johan is his name. So it's all his broken objects. And they are very interesting because they have all a different type of being broken. And like the loopschoenen, running shoes that you saw. Let me see if I can go a little bit back to the video here. The loopschoenen. What can I say about it? He used that for running marathons. And the function of the shoes was running half and full marathons and protecting muscles. And then he used it for gardens. So you hear a lot that when objects get older, they change their role. They get a new function. Like then it was not for marathons anymore, but for working in a garden. But he donated this whole set and of these broken objects, items, to the museum. And they're all related to his running activities. So you have the loopschoenen. You have the, let me see, sportkousen here, sportkous, sport socks, and they are, how do you call it? They are, what's the English word for that again? When there are holes in socks, you can repair them. I always forget that English word for it.
Darning.
Darning, yes, that's the word, right? Yeah, the sportkousen. So let me see. The loopschoenen he bought in a sporting goods store. Some things they come both from a sporting goods store, because I always ask where are they from, and so he stopped using the shoes at some point because it didn't protect his muscles anymore. Then the sportkousen he used with his, let me see, with his shoes. And at some point there were like holes in the toes and heels, and they've been darned by Liliana, his wife. And but at some point you cannot wear them when you do marathons, when the socks are darned, because it starts to be painful in your shoes. There's too much friction. And then there's also the other objects is a handdoek. The handdoek is also really beautiful. As you can see, I hope you can see it well enough. You can see the light coming through a little bit. I hope the image, it's not the best image. Oh, sorry, I did something wrong now. Let me go back. This is a different part. Oh gosh, now I'm lost. Is this the one? This is sorry.
I think.
That
was the video of the cup, I think.
Yeah, here. Let me see the cup another time. Yes, I'm a bit lost now. Oh, here it is. Yes, now I found it back. Yeah, so the handdoek, which is the Dutch word for towel, was always in the sports bag with, and he used it for drying himself off after the match. So that's the relation for it. And since he used it so frequently, it's really became very thin at some point, and you can almost see through it. And so that's how he decided it is broken, because it's so thin now. And the same is with the washandje, washcloth, I think you call it. That's hanging over there. And yeah, this is just not a perfect image. I have better images of it, but there is a hole in het washandje, in the washcloth. And yeah, according to Johan, he said that the washcloth worn out a little faster than a towel. So that was interesting, because I think that he bought them at the same time. And then there's a trophy hanging there. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, it's in the end. You can see it better, maybe. Over there, it's the trophy. And you miss out, there's also this foot thing that it stands on. But that was, when I was invited at Johan's place, we were in the garden shed. And it was full with trophies and medals there. So he has been doing many marathons. He won many prizes. So, and in all the other objects he bought, but this is a different object. This is, he won the object. He didn't pay for it. So that's a difference already. And well, this object broke in 2019 and it fell in two parts. It fell while Johan was cleaning his trophies. The female figure with wings that you can see, the ieke, had broken off her pedestal. And he really regretted it, because he really attaches emotional value to this object. And yeah, it's not, and he said also about the trophy that it's not about the size, because there were huge, there were really big trophies there. But I think it's more about which match that he won for, or I think maybe the experience of doing these running matches are more important for him, and the memory of that, and that's connected for him to these trophies. Yeah, so he has about 700 medals and trophies, actually. He did want to fix it, but it was not possible by gluing it. So yeah, so he gave it to me, to the museum, actually. So that's that story. So I think time probably is running.
Yes, I would suggest we move to the questions now.
Yes, so let's, I will go back and stop sharing my screen, okay?
Yeah. Thanks a lot for the excursion in the first now. We have a question from Bernard. He asks, what happens to the archive? What goes to storage? Are we to envision an afterwards? Is there a narrative beyond this collection's current exhibition?
If there's another exhibition after this? Was that the question?
Or what
beyond this? Oh, is there a narrative beyond this collection, current exhibition? I don't know if I really understand this last part of the question. Let's first look at the first part of the question. Question on request: what happens to the archive? What goes to storage? Well, the things is that there were big objects like a whole bike, and there were quite some big heavy things, and there were a couple of objects that they were really attached to it, even though it was broken, and they became even more attached to it because it was part of the Museum of Broken Things. So they took it back, and they had too much emotional value for them. Then, yeah, and then there were also there's also an object that broke another time when I broke down the exhibition. A stone fell on top of a lamp that has this glass, how do you call it, cup, bowl, and the stone fell on top of it. So it's completely broken now, even more broken than broken. I don't know. And so I just took a couple of objects home, the smaller ones, and I don't know, they're just waiting in boxes. And then, are we to envision an afterwards? Is there a narrative beyond this collection current exhibition? Yes, would that mean like like this moment is also a narrative after? I think this is something that happens now after the exhibition, but I don't know yet. It's been like waiting, and it's not been doing much. It's been like not knowing yet what to do.
There is a nice question from Sophia Kitt. She says that the archaeology of discarded objects is very charming, and she asks you to speak to the art history of this type as a curative practice.
Could you speak to the art history of this type of creative curatorial practice? So, very difficult questions, because I don't really know what the question is. Could you speak to the art history of this type of creative curatorial practice? How do you understand this question, Anyuta?
If you can put back contextualize this project within the art history, if there are other projects that you are inspired by or relate to. This is how I interpret the question.
Yeah. In this case, of course, I think there's a whole probably maybe there even exists already a book about all these art projects that are a museum itself. I think that's where it also fits in. I think, of course, I love to play the museum. I love to think about what that means as a framework, as a context, and what that does to the object to be in a museum. I like that game, maybe also.
In the comments, we have Museum of Secret Memories as another example. I don't know that one myself.
Yeah, of course, the difference is that these broken objects, for me, it's so very important that the moment of being broken is for me very important. That it's kind of that moment to keep it frozen, because usually it's like an area of zero. There's like it's broken, so it's not dysfunction as how we used it before, and it can also go after. It will. What do? You throw it out. You don't want it anymore. And so I like this moment of that. It's just that we can also enjoy this object being in this state, and that's for me also one of the important things of it, to make that we all give some space for these objects to be broken for a while, and to look at them and be with them as how they are in this moment of being broken, because they don't get that much chance to stay in this state of mind. They are thrown out, or they will be repaired, or they get a new function, or or they will be like stored and not been looked back, because that also happened with some of the objects. They will be moved around because people cannot really throw them out. They still have hope for these objects. They don't know what to do with it, but they have hope that they can be repaired at some point.
Carron writes a question, and it's something I wanted to ask myself as well. Is it a social practice project or an ecofeminist project? And I would add up, is it a comment on the consumption society, or is it finding beauty in those objects and in the society we live in?
Well, I have to say, of course, I feel weirdly enough a love for all these objects, because I create a relationship with them. But yes, it does come from also from Well, I think we all seen these images of huge piles of stuff that we throw away. And these things are usually not really broken either, but it's just that we have too much stuff and it's so easily we can get it. And it's being produced so much. There's been so much stuff produced every day to keep the economy running. And that should be good for everybody because then people have jobs. But it's also so easy to buy stuff. And also because you can just go online and click, and then it will be there the next day. Or you don't even need to have money. You can even buy things sometimes. So I think these thoughts are also there. And the other thought is, of course, also more, I think, for me, for a philosophical point of view, that I like to think about what it really means. What's when something is broken? What do we understand of that? There's a different understanding. I realized that also with the people that I met, what they offered and what they thought to be broken. There was even a radio. The antenna was a little bit like not straight anymore of the radio, and it was a bit dirty. So yeah, that's already a reason for maybe it's time to get a new one. I think it's like even with furniture pieces, because they are outdated. It's been seen as almost broken because they don't have the right color anymore. So it's like it's almost an idea of that's also broken when it doesn't fit in the in this time of what we would like to see. That's another thing. But yes, is it a social engage or a social practice? Is it ecofeminism? I don't give things so really these. I don't give it for myself these. How do you call it? I don't find it really necessary to label it. But yeah, is it a social practice? I mean, there is, of course, this moment that I ring people's doorbells. I start talking with them. I involve them. It is really. I always ask them something, and but it is really nice to sit on the couch with them and and to hear their story. It's like a very out of the ordinary moment sometimes, a break in the day, and to just put a lot of focus on some object. But there's the human behind that object, of course, because it tells something about how they live, what they find important, and what things they use. It's like a nice way to get in touch with people with this object in the middle. So yes, I hope that I give enough. If I'm satisfying with the answers that I give. If not, I would like to hear that too, of course.
But I'm afraid we have to round up. I just want to say it makes me think of a video of Slavoj Žižek, an interview he gave for Examined Live that I saw yesterday. He's just walking around this huge piles of trash and says, "This is the reality we live in. We just need to start loving it because we aren't. It's not because we don't see it that it doesn't exist." So thanks to everybody who have been watching. Thanks for Carron and Ieke to invite me. Thanks Ieke to participate in Kunst en Zwalm in the first place. And there are many thank yous in the chat as well for us, I guess.
Yes, big thanks for all your fabulous questions today, and many thanks, Ieke, for taking us on a tour around your broken objects. It really made me think about, this society we have of perfection, and what is beauty. And art is such a statement on these high ideals, high art, and we're always thinking about the perfection of things. So that's a really beautiful metaphor. And Anyuta, thank you for facilitating the conversation today, and also for inviting artists. Without you, we don't exist. And so, big thanks for your support and, producing this amazing project, for this whole town in Belgium. I mean, that sounds like, a really big major project that you did last year. So thank you.
Yes, and it was subsidized on different levels, including Flemish government and the local governments and some sponsors as well. So cry out for them as well. Without that money, it would have been a different project.
Yeah.
Or maybe no project at all.
Exactly. It's so critical. And I just want to share with everybody, next week we have Josh Schwabel in conversation with Bo Coleman. So that's going to be on at 11:15 Chicago time and 6:15 European time and 10:45 Indian Standard Time. And we're also excited to share, let me remove. Workshop that we're running at the end of sorry about that. We had a little bit of tech there, a couple of
but we missed the part. We couldn't hear you.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, when you delete yourself, you delete also your sound.
Yeah.
So just to say, Dimple Bichon is running a workshop at the end of this month. And it's really thinking about this relationship between the body, mind, and nature, and thinking about the interconnection. And that'll be a 4-session workshop at the end, starting March 25th. And thank you again to everybody that tuned in and joined us today. And I look forward to continuing the conversation beyond this space. So thank you all for listening. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.